Hello, people. It's been a while. Okay, so I am coming here because I have heeded the insights that have been revealing themselves to me. The continuous, I don't want to say pressure, but um, pushes and awareness of like, you need to be perceived. You need to be perceived. And the final, sort of, not final, but the most recent push was when I was watching the Queen Pose video on the upcoming new moon or full moon in Leo, which I'm a Leo sun. Okay, I'm also an Aquarius rising. Um, and so in it, she discussed about being perceived and like Leo energy inherently being an energy that is perceived. It is fame oriented energy, right? And it is about, in what areas of your life are you like needing to be seen, right? And need to be seen in order to fulfill whatever goals, purpose, or whatever, right? And so confronting fear around being perceived. And that spoke to me because I hate being perceived. I remember being young and like elementary school age, and I was in my room, and I think I was watching like MTV or something, and or an interview, and the interviewer was asking like, oh, you know would you rather be famous or rich or something? And I remember my system being like, oh, I want to be wealthy. I don't want fame. You could keep fame. I want to be wealthy. I don't want to be seen. I don't need to be in the public eye like that. Like, it was an immediate rejection of the concept, which is crazy because once again, I'm a Leo sun, but we should note, right, once again, that like I said, Aquarius rising, half Aquarius rising, half Pisces rising. It depends on the mood that my chart is in and how I'm being perceived in that moment. And so that was just kind of where I sat. It was like, no, thank you, absolutely not. 0 stars, would not recommend. I want the wealth. I want the comfort, right, of success or whatever, but I don't really want to be seen. And there was this like a vehement sort of internal like rejection of that idea. And so over time, that, especially over the last few years, has really sat with me. This revelation that I came to, this knowing at an early age that I came to, this rejection of perception, especially as I've gotten into astrology and human design and these various avenues of human work and understanding, and realizing that literally every metaphysical thing in every chart centers around my being perceived. Do you know how wild that is? That's crazy. Okay? Like, in astrology, right? I'm a Leo sun in the 6th house. I am an Aquarius rising and North Node, which also has a layer of perception, of being perceived, of being, right? Aquarius energy can be very it girl energy. It can be very, attractive to the masses. Um, Even though Aquariuses are very much loners in a lot of aspects, right? It is the ability to be alone, but not so much the ability to not be seen or desired in some way, right? It is the like my 10th house is in Sagittarius. You know what I'm saying? Um it is the my human design chart is quite literally quite literally empty, except for I am a self-projector, and so I have the 1020 channel. And I think that's the only channel I have. So I have to speak. Like, I have to talk to the people, and help them develop self-awareness, self-love, right? And I do that through discussing my own and being in love with self and letting that be seen, right? It is the fact that I'm a 5'1" in human design, right? And so, you know, we could go there, we could go to numerology. I'm a master number 11, so leadership yet again, right? Which is also balanced by like the 2 and partnership. But like, we could keep going, but the way that it's set up, honey, is, girl, you need to be perceived. And it's the reality of like, I, even in human design, my chart, and I'm not well versed in human design, okay, but even in human design, my chart, which I have not seen in other arenas. And so if anybody is well versed in human design and can help me explain this, because I've talked to other people who are in the human design world and they can't really give me an explanation. But other than like, oh, well, you can't take your chart as separate. I don't follow rules all the time, so, okay. Because I'm a 5'1". Okay. But when my chart is separated into the personality and design charts, they're both reflector charts. They're both reflector charts. The only way I become a projector is if when both of them are aligned and together, and then it creates the self projection, right? And so even with that, I am all about being absorbed, and the very essence of who I am is about being in community and with others and absorbing and reflecting back to people who they are through my own identity. Do you see what I'm saying? And so there is quite literally no way that I won't be, I don't hide well. You gonna see me, right? It is even in my body. Like, I'm a short person, but I'm a thick girl. Being an Aquarius rising, a Pisces rising, the way that I present in the world is different. It is unique in many ways. It is, people are going to see it and perceive it and make an assumption about that. And so that brings me to me addressing my issues with being perceived. Okay. And literally, I could not go to sleep last night until I like thought through, talked to myself about these. And so there are a few main things that keep me in a space around fear, to be honest, around being perceived. And the first really main one, let me see if I can recall well, or if I can just ramble them off and feel satisfied with that. But one of the first main ones is like literally the fear of being perceived, because I am a person who people project ideas onto about who I am and who I can be for them. That shit is so much. It's so much. And the real issue with that is I hate to feel the disappointment of other people in my system, especially people I care about. Less people I don't. But either way, like, I don't like to be disliked, or I don't like feeling people's disappointment in me, right? And so what that looks like throughout my life is I've always been much more comfortable with being underestimated than overestimated, right? And so what that looks like is, you know, when I realized I could get away with being perceived as like the manic pixie ditzy sort of Piscean rising energy, I leaned into that, right? It reminds me of when I was in college. I was in a class, and it was an interesting class. It was a small, intimate class. And one of the girls in the class, like several weeks into the class, we were having to go do an assignment together, and we were talking, and she looked at me and she was like, "You're so fucking smart." And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, she was like, "No offense, but I thought you were ditzy as hell. Like, I didn't think that you were smart at all. Like, I didn't even know how you got to Spelman. Like, I didn't know, which is not like an uncommon thing. A lot of people, I think, have felt that way. And I was like flattered, actually, right? Because I enjoy when people doubt me on the front end and then are pleasantly surprised about me on the back end. I do not enjoy the alternative where people, right, put me on this like pedestal of expectation, and then I inevitably cannot meet that expectation and I fall, and then there's this disappointment. And so one of my main issues with being perceived is that it's trying to avoid the disappointment of people's projections onto me. And the thing is, as I've said already, if we're speaking human design language, I am built to be projected upon. People carry a lot of ideas about who I am and what I can do for them and what I will do, and get upset when I can't fulfill that, right? I think the biggest way it has shown up, or the way that I think has impacted me at a greater level, is in like seventh house relationship dynamics, right? So I am a Virgo stellium in the seventh house of personal planets. So what does that mean? I Moon, Mars, and Venus all in my seventh house of Virgo. And that means that I can sometimes get in relationships with people, and I could be like a hyper fixer, right? Or people will meet me in my, sort of Piscean, Aquarian, rising energy, and not realize that like I am a meticulous Virgo when it comes to relationships. Or they will meet me in this meticulous Virgo sort of self uh guided fixer energy, and not realize that I'm actually pretty floaty and flaky and self-centered because I'm a Leo, right? And so people seeing me through these lenses that sometimes I really do enjoy. I sometimes, because they exacerbate, I think I've always found that people have seen me in like a fixed idea of an exacerbated part of my personality or my identity. They do not necessarily see me as a whole being, right? And then from that exacerbated sort of fixed idea, they then take that and mold it into some sort of concept of what I can do and be for them. And then I inevitably cannot fulfill that because I have a limited amount of energy, because I'm actually like a reflector and I'm tired, and I don't, it's not that I don't care, but like I go in and I do what I'm supposed to do and I get out. And then after that, when the energy is done, it's done. And I actually need a lot of time to myself, in ways that people don't understand all the time. And maybe I'll talk about that another time. And so existing in that disappointment, and the ways that people can react to that, it can get a little violent. It can get a little aggressive. It can get a little bit, right? And so a deep avoidance of having to deal with that is one way that this shows up for me. Another thing that I think is that, kind of along with that, I also have a Libra 8th house, and my Liliths are in that 8th house. And then I also have one of my Liliths in the 9th house. And I'm not all the way well versed, once again, with every version of the Lilith and what they all mean, but Lilith in general, right? So I have two of my Liliths, my Black Moon Lilith specifically, and one of the other asteroids, and Eros, I'm telling my business, in my 8th house of Libra. And then the other Lilith sits in my 9th house of Scorpio. If you catch my drift, you catch it. You see what I'm saying? And so there's also this dynamic with the energy that I carry that is very, my shadow, there's a version of me, and that people who are attracted to me, they like to control me. They like to be They like to possess me. And the thing is, I like to be possessed a little bit too. You know what I mean? Like, I like it. I identify as a house cat. Okay. But I identify as a house cat. You know what I mean? Like, you can take care of me. You can have me if I so choose for you to. But I'm also hyper independent, and sometimes that creates a conflict. And so I've definitely been in dynamics throughout my life, not just in romantic settings, but even in like work related settings where people become very possessive. I attract possessive energies. I am, to a certain extent, a possessive energy. And so it can get really dangerous. Okay. Especially when I get to a place where there's nothing left for me to fulfill, or I've disappointed that possessive energy. Where, I definitely recognize that I have the capacity to attract the sorts of energies that could be like, well, if I can't have you, nobody else can. You know what I mean? Or the types of energies where they're like, being in your presence uh, exacerbates my insecurities, right? Because I am a strong ego energy as well. And not ego, I think, in the lowest forms, but just like this Leonian sort of dynamic that I carry. And so because of the way that I'm set up, I often attract, and because of the work that I do, a lot of the work that I do is ego centered, is love centered. People can get really attached to that. And when they realize that it is not just for them, that it is in my existence for everything and everyone, including myself, people's response to that can be very interesting, to say the least, and dangerous, right? I have seen kind of both ends of that spectrum, all right? 2014 was an interesting year. And so recognizing the power of attraction and perception that I can cultivate and ignite in people, and the ways they respond to that, and the types of energies that I can attract if I'm not careful, that I am attracted to if I'm not careful, also makes me a little cautious. You know what I mean? I don't, yeah. And I just imagine if I'm out in the world, right, projecting this energy, and I'm not careful, you catch my drift. You see where we're going, right? I just don't want no crazy shit. You know what I mean? And simultaneously enjoy a little bit of crazy shit. So it's just like, right? So that's the second thing that I'm hyper aware of that keeps me cautious about being perceived. And then the third thing I think is, what was it? I can attract crazy, obsessive energies. I can be a disappointment. And I think I'm just worried about my ego in general. I don't know if I'm confident enough, especially with how I'm built, how open I am. I won't ever lose myself, but I do recognize that there are parts of myself that operate in a lower energy. Not a lower energy. I don't like the idea of a higher, lower, better, right? But operate in a more immature, or superficial energy that I'm actively working to kind of move away from, or find balance with, rather. And so I'm very cautious and concerned, right, of being perceived, and what that energy, right, when it's good and people love me and they love what I'm offering, and I know what that feels like in my system when people are projecting that energy into me, and I love it. It's kind of addictive, and just not being fully sure what happens if I don't manage that energy well. And the level of consciousness I have to maintain to balance that energy well. It makes me anxious. It makes me nervous. And so I tend to avoid being perceived because I don't want to fall victim to my own ego. Because also I know that the balancing process, that falling from your own ego's height is painful and I don't like it. And so trying to avoid discomfort at all costs is pretty much what this sums up to, right? And trying to maintain and create a level of safety that I'm not sure exists if I go outside, honestly. And what that then attracts, right? Knowing that people are going to have ideas and criticism. And I don't like criticism. I like criticism when I can control the criticism, when I ask for the criticism. When people are just offering it up, that's irritating. I don't like it. Right. And so having to contend with all these various aspects of myself that I just would prefer not to. But honestly and truly, I recognize I have to. And that pisses me off a little bit. A little bit. It excites me in a lot of other ways because it does feel very authentic and real for myself. But it also is like shit. 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 You know? So I just wanted to come and talk that out as an attempt to start leaning into being perceived more and more. And reactivating my voice that I have been, because I have been resistant to being perceived. My voice is also taking a hit. I'm not able to speak as clearly and as effectively as I would like. And so having to do a lot of work over the years of reigniting my voice to get to my truth, to say what I need to say, and then confronting the discomfort of saying those things. Crazy time. Crazy. And we're still very much a baby in this shit. So yeah, that's it. That's all. I hope everybody has a great day. Don't let this world play you. Okay? Peace.